that money, yeah, the money that they spent. Take another look now and take some time for hemp. And don't cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Whoa, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, right now it's time for hemp.
Thank you for taking time for Hemp. I'm your host, Casper Leitch. You are listening to Time for Hemp on Tumblr, SoundCloud, iTunes, and of course, iHeartRadio. We are the only all-cannabis broadcasting network on iHeartRadio. And like a good joint, we are best when shared with friends. It is Thursday, and on Thursdays, we normally have Paul Stanford on as a joint host. Sometimes Paul is out of the country having fun with his friends, like he has been recently in Spain. He'll be telling you about that when he comes on. And we bring on some of our joint friends from around the world. And we like to talk about what's going on here on the political front in the United States, because the policy of the U.S. has a huge impact on all countries around the world. And on today's program, we have a joint member of our joint family also joining in the joint conversation, Ed Rosenthal. And don't forget, anytime you hear the word joint on the big broadcast, nearly 2.5 million people all around the world pack their bongs, their pipes, their vaporizers, and take time for hemp. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How was your visit with all of your friends in Spain?
Went very, very well. There's this event I went to called Expo Grow. Got to see Mark and Jody Emery. Mark is free, and he's doing a little European tour. He's been going through the UK and Ireland the past week, but it's good to see him finally out of jail after 5 years for selling seeds from Vancouver, BC. Our federal U.S. government went up and nabbed him in Vancouver and forced him to take a plea bargain. He was facing up to life in prison, but he took a 5-year sentence, and he's back home now for about a month and a half or so. But it was good to see him. Met some people with initiative processes in Spain. They have an initiative that's gathered enough signatures in the Navarre region of Basque Country in Spain. And so I got to talk to them. I'm probably going to go and testify to some subcommittee in their parliament about that sometime in November. But the details will come after they have a parliamentary hearing, I understand, a little bit later this month. But, yeah, it's pretty cool. Went to Barcelona, saw one of the social clubs there, one of the ones that we had met when they were on our television show, Cannabis Common Sense. So, had a very good trip.
And you got back into the United States just in time for the nation's second largest cannabis festival here in Portland, Oregon, the Portland Hemp Stock. And how was that, Paul?
Well, we had a lot of controversy. The city tried to stop us from getting a permit because there's marijuana smoking at the Hemp Fest. And according to the city, we are indifferent to it, and we allow it to happen. So the police forced us to hire 40 security people full-time that were zealously enforcing marijuana prohibition at our Hemp Fest and searching bags as people were going in. And I'd say maybe two-thirds of the people turned back at the gate because of the incredible stringent searches. They were taking people's lighters away. I didn't even realize lighters were illegal. Did you?
No, my gosh.
But they were taking people's lighters away. And for instance, there were people giving away free lighters inside at their booths, and if you walked out and you tried to come back in with the lighter, they would take it away. So it was really bizarre and surreal in that, but we pulled it off. We had another event. The music was great. The speakers were great. We had Chris Bennett come down from Canada. We had Mike Bifari from Argentina and Chile. John Trudell, of course, both spoke and performed music. We had John Sinclair from Michigan, who's legendary. And so overall, and Lucas Nelson and Promise the Real and the Herbivores were just fantastic. Their music is incredible. So in addition to Lost Marijuanos, Real One, and lots of other folks. So we had a very successful show. Unfortunately, the incredible security held our attendance down, the people who came through the gate, down by about 90%. It was about 10% of what it had been the previous year. And so hopefully, with us voting on Measure 91 to end marijuana prohibition this year, we will see a shift and be able to have a much better event next year. But time will tell.
Next year, you should hire my firm, my security firm.
Well, if you can get the Portland Parks Department and Police Department to approve your security firm, we would do that.
Well, and that was Ed Rosenthal who was speaking, ladies and gentlemen. And I was also one of the speakers at the Seattle Hemp Stock, and while I was there, I had a chance to speak with John Sinclair. For those of you who are fans of John Sinclair, you'll be happy to know that he's going to be bringing his radio show to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network very, very soon. He and I talked about that. He's very excited, looking forward to making it happen. With that said, we're going to direct the conversation to our joint guest today, Ed Rosenthal. And Ed's been very busy writing books and writing all kinds of articles for different magazines and being involved in festivals. It's been a while since you've been on the show. Ed, how have you been?
I've been doing really well, feeling good, and staying high.
And you were recently involved in an event here in Portland, Oregon as well that was pretty well publicized with a handful of members of the marijuana movement, weren't you?
Yes, I was. It was the Oregon Business Conference, and it was held in Portland. It was a 2-day conference, and people... it was fairly well attended. It was expensive, at least to start. I understand tickets were discounted, and people felt that the seminars were really good. You know, they were business oriented, and it was produced locally, so it was really oriented totally towards Oregon, and so that was really refreshing. And I was a speaker there, and basically I forget what I spoke about.
Okay. Well, I know recently you've written.
But I know that I did speak about the Marijuana Users Bill of Rights, which I wrote and have put up as sort of what I see as a template for initiatives or state laws to aspire to.
Well, why don't you tell our audience about the Bill of Rights?
Yes. Well, first of all, people can access the Bill of Rights themselves by just going on Google and putting in Marijuana Users Bill of Rights, and it will come right up. And so the first thing, there are seven parts to it. So, and they're short, so it's not going to be some long droning thing. So, first, all marijuana laws prohibiting possession, use, sales, and production shall be repealed, and this law will replace them. And that means that those old laws, they're no longer going to be on the books. So it's not like this is a patch on them. This is it. And then the other part of that is that marijuana will be removed from the Controlled Substances Act. And each state has its own Controlled Substances Act, and that allows CPS, like Child Protective Services, and other, quote, civilian agencies to go in and harass people. But if it's removed from the Controlled Substances Act, they no longer have cause to do that. They can't go in and say to the, to Child Protective Services, cannot use marijuana as a factor in determining qualifications for parenting. So then, number 2, cannabis shall be placed under civil authority and regulation. Criminal penalties will apply only to a limited number of activities. So think of alcohol, and let's say you drink alcohol responsibly and you don't drive when you're drinking and you don't get into a fight or anything like that, then you'll never come in contact. You should never have to come in contact with the police. And the same thing with marijuana. That the only time that you would come in conflict is if you broke the law, like sales to a minor, and that would probably be the main things that there would, about sales to minors. That would be the main criminal act. Then 3, all residents shall have the right to grow their own marijuana and to share it with family and friends. So that means that you can give a gift of marijuana, you can share your marijuana, you can grow your own marijuana, and that the state can't restrict it. And perhaps the cities might have some sort of restriction, such as that it can't be seen from public view. But other than that, there's no restriction on people's right to grow their own. And this isn't in here, but I don't particularly like plant counts because, the plant could be a half ounce or it could be 10 pounds. That's not a scientific way of determining it. So one idea that I have is a certain number of square feet. For instance, 100 square feet outdoors or indoors, a certain number of watts, like 2,600 watts, and that would be for personal use. Okay. So then number 4, medical marijuana shall be manufactured and provided separately than adult use, and the marijuana recommendation shall be treated as a prescription by the state. Medical dispensaries shall be permitted in all jurisdictions. So that means that dispensaries are not a local option. And when I talk about medical marijuana, I'm most familiar with the California system, and that system is a very lenient system. And in this case, the marijuana prescriptions that I'm talking about would be by a primary care physician or a substitute, and it would be for serious problems. And that would now people would not have to necessarily register, but they'd have to get some sort of certification, which might be a private certification depending on the state. But what this would do is, it would be like people who have certain chronic diseases or who have cancers or certain chronic conditions. And I'm not trying to limit the conditions, but that I want to make the distinction between a prescription drug and an over-the-counter drug. So I'm not saying that people couldn't buy some of these things on an over-the-counter basis, but when they get a prescription, it would free them from taxes and from the whole taxation system. And that's why I have it as a separate track. And another part of having it as a separate track is what I've seen is that the medicines have gotten more and more specific. And I think that the products between a medical marijuana clinic and a pharmacy and an adult use pharmacy, that the products will overlap, but there'll be products that the medical facility will specialize in that probably won't be available at the recreational clinic. And let me give you. I'm going to stop this for a second. So the products that you get at a medical clinic are you wouldn't necessarily find them at a adult use outlet. And let me give you an example. There are a lot of CBD products, and people who just want to use it recreationally aren't necessarily interested in those CBD products. So many of those products might be available only in the facility. So in a recreational facility. So that's another. So then, number 5, adult use stores shall be allowed on a county by county and city by city basis. They shall be prohibited only by a vote of the people. So, in California we have an initiative system, and you do in Oregon as well. And so in states where there's an initiative system, the deciders of whether or not there should be dispensaries, that is adult use stores, will be the people rather than the legislators. So, for instance, the city legislature could propose to ban adult use stores, and then they wouldn't be banned until there was a vote of the people. And so I think that a lot of the time you have cities that are where the legislators don't represent the people on this matter, and this would be more of a direct kind of democracy. Even if the stores are banned in a particular city, that doesn't mean that the use of marijuana is. It's just they'd only be able to ban the sale. Then 6, manufacture and processing shall be permitted in all cities and counties, and license to do so shall be granted when the zoning and appropriate permits are secured. These permits and zoning laws shall not be designed to restrict the opening or continued existence of these enterprises. This isn't referring to adult use stores. This is referring to the actual growing or processing of marijuana products. And it says that you can do it wherever you want as long as you're zoned and permitted. And number 7 is adult use shall be permitted on private premises at the owner's discretion. Public smoking bans may apply to streets and other public property. But, this is banning smoking and perhaps vaporizing. But there's no reason to ban, and the cities have no authority to ban eating it or using a tincture or wearing a patch or ingesting it or drinking smoking it in any way, so that so if they want to ban smoking, that's fine, but they can't ban its use. That's the 7. That's it.
Well, that's groovy, and that does cover the smokers' rights, and that does cover the medical marijuana bill of rights. It would have been great had you put something in there about hemp production and hemp products and the creation of hemp jobs. I say that because that's what I started out with when I started working with Jack Hare, help end marijuana prohibition. Hemp.
Well, let me ask you something. If marijuana is legal, where and all laws regarding it, all criminal laws have been removed, what's to stop people from growing hemp?
Well, I'm sure there's an answer to that one, Paul. Paul Stanford, are you there?
Hey, sounds to me. I like all of it. So it sounds like the vote we have coming up in Oregon this year is pretty closely compliant to it. Did you say 5 out of 7, Ed?
That's what Lee Berger said. That you have 5 out of the 7. The 2, you don't have the first 2. That all current marijuana laws are repealed, and also that is placed under civil authority. So.
Well, I think we had, with our vote in 2012, we had accomplished almost all of them. We would have still had sales to minors as a crime. So that would have been
this has that. It says that all residents, but we're not even though it says that implied, we're not talking about minors. I mean, and
then
the
our 20 is completely compliant with it. Then, and we got 47% of the vote with that.
Well, you know what? On one of these chats, the Arrow chat, which is supposed to be people who are, involved in the movement, actively involved in this issue, and so, I got into a debate with a number of people because I said that the reason that your initiative didn't pass is because it didn't get the support that other initiatives got, and financially, and the reason the groups didn't support it was that they didn't like you personally, and so they said, "Screw you," we're not going to support it. And my thing was, wait a second, it's not the person, it's the initiative. So if you don't like working with him, you do your own advertising. You don't even have to ever talk to him, So anyway, ultimately, everybody denied it until one cop. I'm not going to mention names, but one cop who, from Leap, former cop, actually did say that, and he got into some sort of rage, and just started saying what he really thought, and that proved it. It just showed it, the prejudice that was against you and on that initiative, and that and yours. But now I thought, you know what? If you look at the Washington initiative, which was put together by the ACLU and
DPA,
a bunch of
the DPA.
I'm sorry.
And the Drug Policy Alliance. It wasn't just
the DPA. But wait a second. Let me go further.
Edelman, Jill Harris, Allison Holton.
Yeah, all of those people. But if you look at it, look who they. You would think that they would have consulted the stakeholders, like maybe people who use marijuana. They might be considered stakeholders, but the stakeholders that the main people that they consulted was the cops and then some defense attorneys. And it seems to me that what that initiative does is protects the defense attorneys the cops from losing
and the
their
cops
jobs.
gives them a gravy train.
It's a job
and
protection
it drives
act.
the price of marijuana sky high. You can't even grow your own plant in Washington.
Well, you know what? When I was at Hemp Fest, you had this thing about that. You had these overzealous security people. That happened to me once here in San Francisco, and my wife and I were arrested by the overzealous security people, and the regular cops let us go. So get that. I mean,
in our case, the regular cops were egging the security people on, so that wouldn't have happened in our environment at our Hemp Stock Festival this past weekend.
Well,
but something I think is important to note. Go ahead, Ed. I'll let you finish. Then I got a point.
Yeah. But what I was going to say about this is that, recently I've been publicizing that the Washington Initiative is not a legalization. All it does is as an exemption for 28 grams or less. You have 29 grams, it's a misdemeanor. You have 40 grams, you're a felon. You grow a plant, you're a felon. Now they have that DUI, and you know what? They're not enforcing it this year. Wait, next year they'll enforce it, or something like that. It's the worst. So
there needs to be another initiative in Washington that changes that, because the legislature's not going to touch it.
And you know what? Alice Holscomb is going around the world saying how great she is and everything. But I think if she went back to Washington, I don't think that she is that well liked. Or as this initiative continues, she's going to get her reputation will be tarnished by how bad that initiative is. And the reason why I wrote this Marijuana Users Bill of Rights and to use as a template is for this reason, that I'm going to give you a little story about it. The DPA tried to put an initiative or filed an initiative here in California for 2014. And it was really terrible. I don't have to go into everything. It just didn't meet the things that I was just talking about, any of those. So I said to the DPA, all these people who had been deeply involved in the CCPR, which is this Northern California group trying to put together an initiative, had taken a pledge not to put another initiative on the ballot on their own, but I wasn't in that group because for one reason or another. But anyway, so a couple of members of the group, Dale Geringer and Joe Rogaway, said, "Hey, Ed, you're not in this group. You haven't taken the pledge. Why don't you file an initiative?" So I spent a week. I wrote an initiative based on a template from the CCPR, but with many changes in it. And then I called up, or this might be out of order, but I called up the DPA and said, well, I'm filing an initiative. Why don't you support it? And then I talked with Nadelman, or a friend of Nadelman's, and told her that, look, you know what? We have different goals, and you have to get your initiative on the ballot, and I don't. I don't have to get mine on the ballot, and what that meant is all I have to do is stop you from getting yours on the ballot. Although I didn't say that, and then they decided not to. Collect signatures, but even now they were trying to do the same thing in California as to what they did in Washington, or something really odious. So there you have it. I must confess, this must be the first time that you have a confession of a marijuana activist saying that he stopped the marijuana initiative from getting on the ballot.
Well, when something's bad, you do what you have to do.
But the irony of it, right? So anyway, that's why I wrote this, to use that people, for something to aspire to, and for people to use this as a template as much as possible. Now, you're not going to get all of these in all the states. Like, for instance, in Nevada, they're going to have medical, but it costs like $5 million to set up a grow there. So, that's why I called you, Casper, is because, and I'm asking everybody, send in your nickels and dimes so we can get $5 million together, and Paul and I are going to put up a grow in Nevada. Right, Paul? Yeah, all the listeners here, you just send in $1,000 each, and we'll have the $5 million, or more, and we'll let you come visit it. We'll wine you, dine you, and everything. Just make the check out to S&R Enterprises, care of Casper.
There you go. Well, with that said, we're going to take a commercial break and pay our bills, and then we're going to listen to a song about how fantastic marijuana is, and then we're going to come back and pick up where we left off here at Time for Hemp.
THCF Medical Clinics are the premier physicians clinic in the United States. THCF has offices all across the United States from Hawaii to Michigan. THCF Medical Clinics has helped approximately 150,000 patients obtain their medical marijuana permits to legally possess, grow, and use medical marijuana. If you have chronic pain, multiple sclerosis, or any other neurological degenerative disease, or if you have any gastrointestinal disorders such as GERD, irritable bowel syndrome, or if you have AIDS, cancer, spastic disorders, seizure disorders, or glaucoma, call us at 1-800-723-0188 or visit us online at hemp.org. Again, the number is 1-800-723-0188 and the site is hemp.org.
Yes, get your smoke on. This is Casper Leitch. I am the host of Time for Hemp. And Time for Hemp is a broadcast that is on the broadcasting network known as Time for Hemp. And you can listen to us at timeforhemp.com. No longer just one little lonely voice in the wind. We are now a group of 40 or more hosts that are broadcasting 65 hours a week of original content about the need to end prohibition. We are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and all you have to do is just come to the website and turn it on, or if you have an iHeart app, you can listen to us in your car as you're going down the road. We are back with our joint host today, Paul Stanford, and our joint guest today, Ed Rosenthal. And we are having a joint conversation. And Paul, I will pass this joint conversation Q&A to you.
Okay. So, Ed, what's going to happen in California next year?
Well, I hope to break the mold. And what I'd like to see is that between the wealthy people here in California and marijuana industrialists, that this gets funded independently of DPA and MPP, and that we'll have an initiative in 2016, in November of 2016, the presidential election year, and that initiative will have will have the Marijuana Users Bill of Rights as its template. That's my goal. And everybody who's seen the Bill of Rights has. I'm not asking people to sign on to it or anything, but I've only gotten positive comments from it, and people have suggested a few things, and some of those have been added to it, or it's been modified. But basically, I think it's pretty sound, and I'm looking forward to having that as our basic working set of working principles. And of course, the devil's in the details. But I think that we're going to have a strong initiative, and I think it's one that first of all, it has to be based on voter focus groups and polling, because I don't want to have a moral victory and be left with this, that is lose the initiative because it's too strong or in some way alienates voters who can be swayed on this issue. So we want something that will appeal to a majority of California voters, where we're not trying to educate them, and that by election day will still contain a majority, and that's the most important thing. So a lot of what goes into the initiative will be based on both polling and on voter focus groups. So
okay,
I'm totally committed to a strong initiative, and my bottom line. There are a few things that are my bottom line, which is civil regulation, which is very much like Colorado. Now, I don't think that the Colorado model is appropriate for California, but I do like the civil regulation. And the other is home growing is permitted, that people have the right to grow their own. And the very first initiative in the United States, which was in 1972, Prop 19 in California, and or I think it was the first initiative, but that said free legal backyard legal backyard cultivation. And basically, I don't think that it's a new idea or it's a radical idea. People have the right to grow their own. And, and on the other hand, I could understand why the government wouldn't want it, because growing your own is the addictive part of marijuana. I mean, using it may or may not be addictive, but growing it is.
I guess I'm hooked. Anyway, what I've seen is that there are two.
I have a 12-step program for.
What?
I have a 12-step program for marijuana cultivation addiction, and it starts with get really high-quality planting mix. I'm not going to go through the other 11.
Okay. So what I've seen, and it's kind of clear, is that there are these two competing groups out there that want to lead us to legalization. And they don't want competition. One of them is DPA, and they've tied in with the ACLU. It's Graham Boyd and Ethan Nadelman. And they brought us Washington, and now they kind of shoved us aside, and they've now got Oregon's. I got to say, Oregon's bill is a lot better than Washington. And it's better in most ways than Colorado's, with one exception. In Colorado, you can grow 6 plants and have everything your 6 plants produce in your home. That's how it should be. Oregon's proposal is you can grow 4 plants and have 8 ounces. That's really not realistic. I grow 1 plant and I get 15 pounds, So anyway, the other group is the Marijuana Policy Project, and they brought us Colorado, and this year they're bringing us Alaska. And these two guys don't like each other at all. The folks at DPA don't like MPP, and they're very clear in that, and vice versa. And so there are these two competing larger organizations, and they're going to try to step in and make sure that, if one of them doesn't do it, the other one does it. And they don't want really any competition in the game. And so that's just an observation I thought I'd throw out there. What do you think, Ed?
Well, he who pays the piper calls the tune. And we think that independently, there is the money out there outside of both the MPP and DPA. Now, I think that MPP has a more realistic stance than DPA does. But I would like to see either indigenous fundraising, that is, within California. And, I mean, you think about it, like, there's this concentrated wealth in the Hollywood community, and we know that there are people who own hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, and they could just peel off $5 million and get this thing started. I mean, how much is that? I mean, realistically, you see gigantic donations to different causes and things, and but
they really don't see it.
What?
Most of those people with the money, they don't see how this ties into human rights and civil rights and how this ties into the ecology.
I'm talking about proponents of it. There are people that we know that are proponents of it, and some of them say, "Oh, well, we'll do a concert for you, or we'll do that." And recently, a big name star said, "Oh, I would do a concert for Green Aid." I said, "I'm not a concert producer."
Yeah.
You want to produce a concert and be at the concert, but then you want me, but I'm not going to. I'm not in the business of selling concert tickets. So thanks, but no thanks. But why why not just write a check? Just do a concert and say this concert is a fundraiser, one of your regular concerts, and just write a check for the proceeds from it or something, or part of the proceeds. And that I've taken that hardened attitude, but I still think that the money is out there. And also, there's another group that's available now that wasn't available in the past, and that group is the entrepreneur, the businesses and entrepreneurs. There are companies that are on the stock, in the stock market, that are trading. There are companies doing IPOs. There are all these entrepreneurs or, large privately held companies, so that there's a concentration of wealth there that can peel off, some checks. Now, I know that when we've tried to appeal to growers, for instance, they have never really seen their responsibility in terms of changing these laws. They would rather take the risk, and they'd rather take the risk, I guess. So, anyway, I do think that the money is out there now between different sources of wealth in California. And I think that actually the money was there for the taking in Washington if the groups had been able to get together. Look at the concentration of wealth between Amazon and Microsoft and, the other companies up there. And, there's a high concentration of heads in that kind of community. And, it's a question of opening those locks, using the right keys to open the locks. Because, even here in California, one person could say, okay, I'll do it. There was a person. There was a person that I met with yesterday, who we weren't talking exactly about this subject, but if he wanted to write a check for the whole amount, he could, move his finances around a little bit, but it wouldn't change his lifestyle or, his wealth significantly. Write a check for $10 million. To you and me, that's a life. That's more money than will pass through us in our entire lifetime, maybe. Or to most people, but to other people, they get it for a movie or in dividends every year, or one way or another, they have wealth that people don't realize what kind of wealth is out there, and I think that it can be tapped. It must be hard for some rap singers to talk about oppression and everything when they're worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
It gets difficult to talk about how oppressed you are, I went to the Benz dealer and I had to wait online.
Yeah, it was a lot like George Harrison preaching a non-material world and to give up all material things, and you realize that he owned a 10-bedroom mansion on 80 acres in England.
But it was plainly furnished.
Right.
Of course, only with the best.
Plainly speaking. Well, we're down to the last couple of minutes here of the big broadcast, and this gives us a chance to give a shout-out to our favorite URLs and anything coming up. We'll start with Ed.
Well, I'd like people to look at the GreenAid site, which is put GreenAid in on Google and it will come up. And we're having a party November 8th which is in in Berkeley, California, and people should look for come down to the party. It's going to be great. And oh yes, we were supposed to talk about my book. I have a new book out. It's called Beyond Buds, and it's about all kinds of concentrates, from dry sifts to tinctures, ice hash, BHO, carbon dioxide waxes, and water hash. Everything about concentrates, and I think it's a really good book. Everybody should check it out.
Well, you said you did not want to talk about it until Paul and I got your free copy that you're sending us both, and give us a chance to look at it. And then you're back.
I'm not. Look, I'm not complaining. I think this was a great show. So, hey, I think you're doing a great job, and I think you're an asset to the community. So there you go.
Thank you. And we will be having you back on the show to talk about your new books and let people know how to get a copy of it.
Yeah, well, once you get the book, then we can have a really nice conversation about it.
And we'll do that. And Paul, you want to give a shout out?
The portal at hemp.org. Just go to the portal, hemp.org. There's news, there's views, there's businesses. Check it out.
And I want to remind people that Paul and I do a show together every Friday night, and he's been hosting it for about 16 years, and I have been the joint host with Paul now for about 4. I can't believe how long it's been. Time flies.
18 years.
18 years. And make it a point to tune in to check that out on the internet at Ustream It, and you can also find it at YouTube. And all the new segments are always posted there shortly after we air live on Friday night. Do make it a point to tune in to listen to some of the other hosts on the broadcast. We've got Ben Swan, we got Judge James Gray. Of course, we got the broadcast is in Spanish twice a week in the afternoons with Mike Bafari coming to you out of Chile. We got our French broadcast on Fridays, and now we're also broadcasting every other week for an hour in Japanese. And we are doing everything we know to do to let the whole world know how important it is to take time for hemp.
Look at all that money, the money that they spent. Take another look and spend some time for hemp. Don't cut trees for paper, 'cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yes, it's time for hemp. Whoa, an acre of hemp makes 20 bales of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no...
Gonna be